Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Empowered, presented by Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation. If you don't know me yet, my name is Rebecca Durrance-Hine. I am a cancer thriver, an actor, a teacher, and now your host for this evening. I also run a Renda Cancer community and blog, which I'll talk a bit about at the end. I want to encourage you guys to participate tonight by posting any questions that you have, any comments that you have throughout the show. We'll do what we usually do and try to save 5 or 10 minutes at the end for any questions that do come in throughout the show. So with that, I would love to introduce you to our guest on Empowered tonight, Marvin Theodore. Marvin is an expert in the power of habits. Through dealing with his own severe anxiety, depression, anger, isolation, and an eating disorder stemming from fears, Marvin began to combine his passion for physical wellness with mental and emotional wellness as well. So now he helps his clients to understand their habits and choices, find balance in their lives, and prioritize their own physical, mental, and emotional health as they find their path to holistic well-being. Welcome, Marvin, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here. I know it's going to be a great experience.
Wonderful. So let's jump right in. Why don't we start with a little bit of background information? Why don't you tell people a bit about your story, how you became interested in not just in physical wellness, but also in mental and emotional as well?
Sure. Well, my history is I've been a trainer for over 20 years. It was actually always a dream of mine. It's something I studied for about 8 years before actually starting. So I was 8, 10 years old, and I was already reading up on magazines. And it's just when I noticed that I was not aligned with the friends that I was dealing with every day. I just felt like as if I was wasting my time. I'm like, I don't really want to do this, but then you're the cool kids. I'm like, so it took courage to be myself. That's how I just started with. And then I started doing weight training. And I noticed real soon that with over a year of training, I was exactly at the same weight. And it was with a lot of hard work, but inconsistent hard work. So then I realized, you know what? How about if I just decide to be consistent with this hard work?
Right.
And I got so passionate about what I was doing that I got into a mechanical process with my habit while paying attention to the details. And I was so focused on that and enjoying it from one session to another that I had incredible transformation, but it took me 4 months to notice that I had an incredible transformation because I was not attached to the immediate outcome. But then I realized that when now everyone was asking me questions, hey, you should be a trainer, blah, blah, you're really good at explaining things. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you,
Yeah.
I'll go to school about it, which was less interesting for me because, see, in developing who I am today, I noticed that it was not like, testing how much neutron strengths are on my muscles, on the angle of my muscles, but more about people being empowered and breaking through their limits is what was interesting me more. I broke through a limit and I like seeing people break through limits. So the turning point for me was, it was very important, and it was related to when I noticed some of my clients with all of this motherly love I had. I'm someone I spent a lot of time with his mom. Some of the kids were like, oh, I'm embarrassed to go to the mall with my mom. I love going to the mall with my mom because she always supported me. She gave us everything, right? So I'm like, this is so cool. She's always backed me up with the things I like. But I noticed that with all this caring, the nutritionist and the private sessions that some people couldn't afford, how come some clients get to their results and some don't?
Right.
And I'm like, is there an aspect as a personal trainer that we're missing out on? So that's why sometimes you go and throw the life coaching, but you see, it's still like a coach telling you what to do, a nutritionist telling you what to do. Everyone's telling you what to do, except for you telling you what to do. You see? And that's why I noticed that there's an aspect of when we grew up perhaps with a tough it up, suck it up, don't pay attention to your emotions. Emotions are bad. You just need to do it. Maybe that's a fatal flaw right there. What about if our emotions are a very sophisticated feedback loop of what our system needs and what our desires want to accomplish? So if I could attach my training to a desire I want to accomplish, I think I want to do this all the time.
Right.
But if it's not connected to something deep enough and it's something like, I just want to make this person jealous because they dumped me, or I want to look good and impress the people at a wedding, I mean, you'll need a lot of motivation because deep down, you don't really care about that,
That's right. It's
you
good
know, and you're so much more than trying to impress people at a wedding.
point.
That's why it might not stick.
Right.
So that is how I could decide to connect the whole emotional aspect to the existential aspect of physical training. Why the habit will always stick, because you get to do this. You don't have to do this. I hope
Right.
that was a good enough explanation for you.
Yes. Yeah. That's really, yeah, it's really like anything, any decision that you make or any action you take, if it's for somebody else or because of someone else's influence or yeah, wanting to impress someone or whatever, yeah, you're never going to be satisfied with the result. And yeah, like you say, it's probably not going to stick. It's not going to turn into a healthy habit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So you're a certified pure coach. So that was a
Yes.
term that was new to me, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's new to a lot of people in the audience. So can you tell people what exactly that means?
Okay. The pure coaching aspect is that, once again, a coach is someone that's going to tell you, I've been there in the ring, Rocky, reference to Rocky movie. You
Right.
just do what I tell you, damn it. You know, it's like it's always someone hammering what you need to be
Yeah.
doing. Pure coaching, you could, and this is what is another tip about great relationships. All right, father and mother with children,
Hmm.
spouses together. This is what the pure coaching does. It takes two geniuses and it gets them to come and create this space in between, like a Venn diagram,
Right.
where they are one mind, where they could see what the other person sees. So then now it's like everything is enhanced, and it's like, oh, I see what you're seeing. Why don't you try doing this now? I see, I'm not assuming with my past what's going on in your life. In
Right.
the present moment, I could see what you're experiencing in your life. And through this labyrinth that's just so hard for us to figure out on our own, some kid that's like 8 years old comes out of nowhere. I'm like, why don't you try doing this instead? And you're like, that's so true if you're humble enough.
Right.
And the advice works, because we're when we want someone, we're so attached to the extent of it, even when it's something positive, that
Right.
it constricts our mind's ability.
Right.
Just like your blood circulation could be constricted. So when you have a good and easy, relaxed flow of things just flow easily. So just the fact that you know someone else kind of sees where you're at, such as,
Right.
oh my goodness, I'm panicking and I don't know where I am. Okay. Tell me, what type of
Yeah.
trees are you seeing? And then you describe that and they're like, okay, I know where you are. You relax. You're like, oh,
Relax.
someone knows where I'm at.
Right.
So pure coaching just enables people to feel relieved that someone else kind of knows where they're at.
That's where they're at.
And they're going to get through this labyrinth no problem, because now there's a
Yeah.
flashlight with someone else there working with you, not working on you.
On
You
you.
know,
I love
so
that.
that's what pure coaching is about.
That's a great. I really love that description. Yeah, someone working with you instead of on you. Yeah, because I think it maybe even relates back to what you were just saying before. If you feel like you're doing this for your trainer because your trainer's there yelling at you and not because, you genuinely want that change. Yeah, same thing. It's not going to stick. Wow. That's
And you
awesome.
mentioned it well there. It's not going to stick. And
Mhm.
what is your pure intention? What is
Right.
it? What is your real intention behind this?
Right.
If you could connect to your sincere motivation of what you already like doing, you could
Mhm.
connect even with something that you have to do,
Right.
because you get to do something you enjoy being
Enjoy.
with
Yes.
what you have to do.
Have to
So
do.
getting this pure intention just enables you to clear out the burden behind something that's necessary to do.
That's really
And
awesome.
it's not someone else's opinion of what you should
Exactly.
do. You
Yeah.
could choose to do it now for a reason that's more meaningful to you.
Absolutely. I actually feel that way a lot of the things that I did um after I was diagnosed. It required a lot of lifestyle changes. I completely overhauled my diet. I started exercising a lot more, and there's a lot of things that I did, and some of them were enjoyable, some of them were not so much, but it was things that I had to do. But as soon as I
Yeah.
started looking at them instead as something that I had to do and instead as something that was helping me heal and making me feel good and
Mm,
contributing to like my healing and my long-term health, then it became so much easier to do those things. Because
mm.
yeah, instead of looking at it like I have to do this, it was like, you know what, I have to do this, but as you said, it gets me to being the person that I want to be, or it has me feeling the way that I want to feel. Yeah, which is
Good point.
amazing. Yeah,
I
yeah,
really
that's
like what you
awesome.
mentioned there. I could add a light thing to it.
Yes, please.
Is that usually people get discouraged at the gym, because
Yes.
they don't see the results right away, and at
Hmm.
least they're honest. I appreciate the honesty they have with me. They're like, if I don't see results close enough, I'm gonna quit. But what about if you have no choice to get in better health, right? You
Right.
have no choice to do this, and it doesn't depend on if you're getting the results or not.
Yeah.
The thing is that you cannot see the micro doses of the results because you want an exit out of there.
Right.
Now, if you connect to why you get to do this, because you're connecting it to something that you get to have more fun with, such as,
Right.
hey, I get to run around more with my kids, I'm going to start paying more attention to where the benefits that I'm getting from my workouts, from my better sleep, from my nutrition. I'm going to try combining all of them in a synergy to see what's meaningful to me, if it's that's going to increase, because
Right.
I don't want to exit out of there. I want to spend all of my time there.
Right.
So that's why when people train and they don't have something very meaningful that they're pursuing in life, all they have is the majority of their day at work. They want
Right.
to exit out of there the majority of the time. And then when they get home, sometimes they want to exit out of there. so you really need to find something meaningful to see to which microdose increments that this is actually really having an impact there. And it does motivate you to kind of like want to combine different things together versus doing one good thing that helps with another thing that cancels it out.
Yeah.
I just have to add that.
Absolutely. No, thank you for doing so. That's great. Yeah. So you, of course, are an expert in habits and the power of habits.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know for you, what's the connection between physical well-being and our mindset or emotional state? And how do habits play a role in that connection?
Okay. Well, it's in your morale with the power of integrity. When you say you're going to do something and you actually do it, it gives you like this boost of integrity, energy, I call it.
Yeah.
Because, and especially if it matters to you, right? It's like a goal that you said, I finally did it. But when you're not doing those things, they pile up in your brain and they cloud your brain. And when you sleep well at night, like, something we forgot doing, we don't do anymore in our society today. We're like, it's like the first thing could go out the window. See, there's actual things in your brain that clear up with sleep. And when you have a lot of tasks in your day that are not being cleared, it's more crowding and constriction in your brain. That's why when you do something like what I did and I enjoy doing now, fasting, is that fasting enables you to go look at the things that were not crossed off your checklist that could possibly bother you. And you actually want to check them off so it clears out. So just like your body's clearing out things that don't belong there anymore, your mind and the actions of what could clear out things out of your mind works too. So when we're talking about your mindset, your well-being, your habits, your emotional states, there's a connection between them in terms of there are things that are always going to empower you. There's things that are going to disempower you. And once again, when you're choosing to do the things now that will empower you, then you will be like, okay, good, empower. Why do I want to be so empowered? Which comes back again to setting up a meaningful goal. See, once again, why do I need to be such a better version of myself when I don't have to do anything better? I could eat probably McDonald's all day and do my everyday work or my talent that I could do in my sleep, right? There has to be something deeper that will want you to go to the next level and clear up your mind and be in integrity with what you said that you're going to do. So now you have habits now that support your well-being of there's nothing keeping you down because it wasn't done.
Right.
So your emotional state, you're going to be in a better emotional state because it's a habit for you of clearing out those things. It's not going to be a habit of you of forgetting it, crossing off people of your list. Like I was someone, it's like, you don't exist to me anymore if you really pissed me off in the past.
Wow.
But then that's just like a cheap way of doing it in a way, instead of like giving a person a chance of at least explaining themselves. Maybe I assumed wrong. I came to the wrong conclusion, right? So at least I'm strong enough to check. And if the person doesn't want to talk about it, then that's fine. That's clear off my list. I don't have to ever think about this again because I actually did what was needed to be done. So it actually makes me courageous to clear things off my list. So obviously I feel like a winner and I feel incredible by challenging the things that could affect my emotional state. Like not doing something or letting something that I know I should do accumulate.
And I think we have a habit of a bad habit of doing that kind of thing, like ignoring the things that we don't necessarily want to do instead of, finding a good reason to, or a good way of connecting to that thing so that we feel motivated to do it. Right. Yeah. And you're so right that those things, it's almost like they sit in the back of your mind and like fester away, right? And
Yeah,
then you end up with a, a bigger problem down the line.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
because you come to the wrong conclusion of things because you don't know. You're assumed it. It's uncomfortable.
Right.
People don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
So then and that's the connection between them again, is that someone said something to you. It's a theory, right? Now, it gives you an emotional discomfort, which is giving you a physical discomfort.
Right.
Everything is connected. So your body that keeps accumulating these theories of attacks to you that are actually bothering you emotionally, that are actually causing you physical distress in your body, constricting muscle tension, you're making yourself sick by not challenging and making peace with those things. At least you went to go talk to the person in peace to see what's going on. Hey, maybe there's something I don't know. Maybe there's something I did that bothered you. I know that I don't know.
Right.
But when we feel like we already know what happened, then our comfort zone becomes smaller and smaller because we have to avoid all these morons and all these mean people in life, right? So then that's why it goes on through life, and we're so grumpy by the end of our old age, because we're avoiding things that are bothering us instead of understanding the nature of things and being well with them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that, like, through my experience with cancer, I've really come to understand or believe in or just have a ton of evidence for the mind-body connection and just how much what we feel and think affects us on a physical level. And yeah, it's so true. That was actually a big part of my healing too, was, forgiving people I needed to forgive, asking for forgiveness where it needed to come, where it needed to happen. And yeah, it was just a really important piece of the puzzle for me. So I absolutely resonate with that. Yeah, 100%.
I love what you just said there, because you're such a genius. You remind me of something. This is updated stuff. I'm skipping steps in a way in terms of, I don't even think we're supposed to talk about this today, but I found it impossible to forgive people. I had like all these books on forgiving people.
Right.
And then when I did my fasting not too long ago, and I was walking in nature, and I was like, but I don't need to forgive someone if I've never condemned them.
Ah.
I'm like, that's the ultimate level of forgiving someone. Don't ever, because I can't. I'm saying it out loud. I can't do it. The medical doctor could probably come and be like, yeah, he's right. He can't forgive people. So then don't condemn them. I'm able to reframe things where I'm not going to condemn them. I'm like, well, I would have done that too, maybe in that circumstance.
Right.
Maybe like if I put myself in their shoes, yeah, wow, it's true. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they have reacted like that? Why should that bother me? That's understandable. Yeah. So I just don't take things personally anymore. So wonderful. I don't have to condemn you because I can't forgive you.
So we better not get to that point,
No, it won't. But that's my responsibility, though. Absolutely. That has nothing to do with you. Yeah. Something happened. Why am I going to stay and ruminate over this my entire life and not live and ruin my immune system? I have something to do important in life. I got to move on. I have other stuff to do. If I have nothing else to do, then I'm going to stay stuck on that.
Right.
My energy obviously is not going somewhere important, so you could stay wasting its time on maybe what you did to me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's such an interesting way to reframe it, because so much of the time when we get upset about something, it has nothing to do with the other person and everything to do with us and the way we're perceiving things. So yeah, that's a really, I think, helpful way to reframe stuff is the things that happen, is to try to put ourselves in their position and understand it so that we don't have to, as you say, condemn them. Wow, that's really interesting. I love that. So you describe well-being as an art form, and I really love that description of it because I feel similarly, and I'm just wondering for you, where did this understanding of well-being come from, and why do you feel that way?
Okay. I'm going to share this only if you share me like your secret about this, right?
Okay.
It's all right? It's a deal?
Sure. Yes.
Because you said I have my own opinion. I'm like, I really am interested in hearing your opinion. Okay, so the way I see it is that the art of well-being is being able to adjust your pace of mind with the things that bother you. You start noticing, if you could start being like, and that's why I call the principle of having an observer. Okay. When you're someone that practices introspecting, your you're able to remove yourself from the victimhood of your day, the struggles of your day, and you kind of like observe. Like
Right.
there's a storm, the eagle
Love.
kind of looks like, well, what are the pattern of the waves of this storm? And you're not in it, you're above it. So it's allowing you to be above the circumstances in your life.
Yes.
Now, when that happens now, you're able to see, okay, what are the reoccurring things that are always happening? So that if it happens the next time, how do I want to practice being in that situation? What can how can I respond with something that I have practiced emulating in a state of mind? So do I want to be relaxed here? Do I want to be more joking here? Is it a chapter of my life where I have to kind of like let loose a bit? What is the reoccurring theme and how I could respond to the things that are reoccurring that bother me?
Yes.
So when I say it's an art form, is that it's going to take you less effort. It's going to be more effective for you to be less disturbed and destabilized by the things that have bothered you over the years. It's always coming back. It's like, I'll give you a very simple example. Where I was working, there was a lady that was complaining about the snow outside, and she's older than me, and I know we both grew up in the same area in Quebec, where it's like, look, when has there ever been a winter where there's not like some last snowstorm or something like that, And she was complaining about it, and I'm like, but honey, haven't you lived here for at least the last 15 years? Like, when has this not happened? How can you possibly allow yourself to be genuinely decentered by something that has always happened and that will never change by any complaining that you do?
Yeah.
So when I say it's an art form, is that the things that destabilize you less. And I'll give another very quick example with something that's very, very profound for some people. Dealing, like, let's say, with money issues that you might have. When you realize, let's say that, hey, you know what? At the end of the month, I'm always tight. Okay, the art form of this is now you could start noticing yourself as an observer that you are talking now to people about your money.
Right.
And you're being more relaxed and more calm and more efficient about it. Then the next step is you're talking to the right people now about your money issues now, more often in a more relaxed way, in a more efficient way. Then you're actually doing what they're telling you to do in a more calmer, more efficient, more effective way. It's demanding less effort. It's more rewarding, the effort that you put in. Then next, now you're starting to anticipate what could go wrong and what they told you to do. And now you're being proactive about it. Do you get that? Do you get that? So your well-being, what could destabilize you, kind of takes like an offensive action that prevents anything that could possibly go wrong from going wrong. So you're like, your whole lifestyle adapts to what could destabilize you, because this moment, this feeling that you're having, first of all, you have to know you could feel that great. Nothing's going to come and mess with that. This quality of time that you could spend in silence, you got to earn it. You got to work on it. So it's an art form.
Right. I love that. That's so great. Yeah, I think my thoughts are maybe not as eloquent as that, but I just feel like there's it's been such a journey for me to find my well-being, and well-being has so many more facets than I realized that it did. And I think it's just, for me, it's an art form in the sense that it takes time to really know yourself and know what your moving pieces are, and to learn how to attend to each of those moving pieces. And sort of like what you said about, like, in any given moment, who am I in my life right now? Do I need to be more, like you said, playful? Do I need to be more serious? Do I need to stand up for myself? And I think it's just getting the knack of, okay, what are all of my pieces, and how do I take care of all of those pieces in a way that works for me, in a way that's meaningful for me. Like, as we were talking about before, it's about finding the way that attaching a meaning to it that is meaningful and powerful and passion filled for you. So I think just all of that is, and it takes time and it takes effort, which for me, I always connect with, art forms of any kind. Isn't it? Takes a
Yeah.
lot. It takes time and effort and a desire to master it all. Yeah,
Got it.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that description. Yeah, it was awesome. Okay, so one of the things that you help people with is developing a deeper understanding of their own habits, obviously, because that's something that you specialize in. So how do lifestyle and habits choices play a role in our own or in our overall well-being?
Okay. Well, once again, to continue with the same path that we just took, is that my habits either empower me or disempower me. Okay, disempower me in being able to respond. I'm going to be reactive. I can't do anything about it. I'm a victim. Or they allow me to respond. Let me try this time.
Right.
Okay. So when you could start realizing the pattern of behaviors that you have, let's say that you do introspection or you have guided introspection with pure coaching, is now you could start seeing the ratio of those habits and basically the outcome average of your day, which are very closely related. And that basically you're really choosing to be in the state that you're in right now. And it's a choice if you want to be aware of it or not.
Right.
And if you're noticing as the same patterns going on, that's already something. Congratulations.
Yeah.
But most people don't even get there to notice that they're going through the same patterns over and over. And there was a book I was reading that I think was A Power of Habits, and they're saying there's up to 80% of your day which is just purely habits. So you better make sure that you are making conscious choices of those habits so they're empowering habits.
Right.
And if you don't pay attention to it, then guess what? There's not maybe a nice picture of where you're heading.
Yeah.
And don't be surprised to that, because that's actually a recipe of where most people end up being somewhere they don't want. And they start regretting maybe the choices that they had and the freedom that they had to do something about it. So when we're talking about developing a better understanding of our habits, it's understanding why we even go there in being able to address something positive, and why we don't even go there in adjusting something that could harm us. So there's an ABCD type of formula that I came up with, I refined, which is A is for being aware of your attitude. Like, how am I choosing to clothe myself for the situation?
Yes.
Like when I'm being proactive, then that, whether I'm aware of it or not, if we film me on camera, is equal to a behavior, a set pattern that will lead to something else, your character, which is one of the most difficult things to change. Your character is part genetic and part how you grew up. So if you want to adjust that, you got to be very conscious about the attitude you're choosing to put now by knowing better, right? Then the behavior that is the habit and the character trait that you're going to have. And that's going to determine your destiny.
Right.
And your destiny could go in both ways. It could be a destiny that is empowering, or a destiny where you have chosen the freedom to fail, because you always have a freedom to do something.
Right.
So that's A, B, C, D, E, F.
Nice.
Yeah, there's one or the other. There's no in between. It's you have a lifestyle of empowerment that was a choice, or by default, is a freedom to fail because you're choosing not to see as a habit.
That's right.
So then how can you guide anything? It's just this dead pattern guiding your life. There's nothing alive. You're not even noticing you're repeating the same thing over while everything is changing, and you're still doing the same thing over again.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, we're not recognizing these things as habits that we could choose to do differently. Like you say, it's almost like the way we always behave, or the emotions that we always feel, or the way we always respond in a situation. It's almost like it becomes part of our identity sometimes. And it's like, no, this is who I am. And so this is how I'm always going to be in this, situation. And as you say, some of it has to do with genetics and how you're brought up and all of that. But yeah, there's always a choice. I really like that. There's always a choice. I think we feel like there's a lot of stuff we don't have control over that we actually do have control over. I think sometimes that's an excuse almost. So in that same vein, then, can developing an understanding of our good habits and choices help us, in the same way as understanding our bad choices and our habits? And how can it help us to do that? Or how does it help us?
Can you reframe that for me, please?
So if B, I guess, is can being aware of our good habits and choices, can that help us in the same way as being aware of our bad choices, so that, if we're aware of our bad choices, we can choose, or our bad habits, we can choose differently, or, choose a better habit.
Yeah.
Can being aware of our good ones
Well,
also help
yeah.
us?
Yeah, in the sense that people just need to realize that they have more control over their well-being than they realize.
Yeah.
And if there's something as a bad habit, it's probably leading to unwanted comfort zone, meaning it's creating a certain discomfort.
Right.
And no discomfort should be ignored. That tells you go check something.
Yeah.
Hey, would you ever buy a car that did not have any lights that could turn on the dashboard to tell you check oil or check engine?
No, that's true.
So when that
No.
gets you to be responsible and bring it to the specialist that knows what to do, till the
Yes.
specialist enables you to understand how you could do it yourself,
Yes. Yes.
doesn't that lead to a good habit?
Yeah.
When you don't know, ask.
When you don't know, ask.
When there's something fishy that you're feeling, hey, I think maybe the light's going to turn on. The light's going to turn on after all. Look at that. You can start predicting that. Just like those super Buddhist monks that could detect when it's going to rain like a week before it rains type of thing,
Yes.
That's exactly it. They paid attention, and that's what it leads to. So when you have a good habit and you have a very positive habit, it kind of lets you know kind of like the strengths that you have already, the stuff that you could do in your sleep. That's like your genius zone. So when you have a genius zone, that's good. But I believe one thing that's very important is you're only as strong as your weakest link. So the things that you have difficulty with enable you to work on the things that you would never work on. Usually you would never work on them,
right?
But that's the platform for your genius zone, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. So good thing you get to work on those things that you have difficulty with, because now you have something meaningful that's too important that you don't want to screw up.
That's right.
You get it? Right. Your well-being zone and your talent zone and what's meaningful for you, in the way that you found your reason of being and you're helping out thousands of lives, or even 10 lives that will impact other lives. It doesn't matter what it is, Adam, because it's going to change with time, right?
That's right.
You so don't want to mess around with the quality time and the well-being state that you have there, that you'll work on your weaknesses. You get to work on them. And you don't need to see them as weaknesses anymore necessarily. Right. It just is what it is. It's it's enabling you to complete yourself and to have a stronger foundation for the things that you have become lazy about, because you could eat McDonald's all day and do certain things that you've done for 20 years, right?
Yeah, right.
It forces you to level up your discipline.
Very true. And I think
because you need all of yourself to work on those weaker zones.
You really do. And I feel like being aware of the strong areas of your life, or being aware of how you feel when you're making those, good habits or good choices, it almost makes it easier to notice when the light's coming on, right? And when you're not feeling, aligned and like you're not making good choices. It becomes harder to ignore when you're not making good choices, because you're like, oh, I usually feel this way and it feels pretty great, and I don't feel that way right now. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just
you nailed it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I feel like you must have seen a lot of just transformations in the people that you work with. And so do you have any success stories or anything that comes to mind for how you've seen your clients' lives improve through developing this deeper understanding of their habits and their choices?
The courage to, at any age, of wanting to stand up to be themselves and to let their dreams create a new path for them that they're choosing to level up their lifestyle to do. So they get this self-motivation to do the things where now no one needs to run after them, because they saw a spark where it's like, it's true. I've never really lived for myself. I work a lot with mothers now, which basically have over worried about like other people, to the point that the people don't even need anything. They're like in another country maybe, and they're probably still worrying about them, as if their identity and their self-worth and their value is living through those people.
Right.
And that's one thing that, like, finally they're deciding to live for themselves, and it's like a new fresh breath of life for them. It's like they're becoming younger again. There's this new spark in their eyes. Another thing is the fork in the road. They could see now how they've always reacted, and now they have a choice. And being able to have a choice is so powerful because now you're outside of your negative habit loop.
Right.
You've passed beyond awareness. Now you have a new action that could install itself, where before you didn't know you were being in a disempowering loop that kept you in a low level of energy of living, that kept you sick, and that was getting you more and more sick with time.
Right.
And I don't know, honey, but you don't have that much time to keep wasting in that road when the health keeps going down and down, and that you have less chances. And that's what I feel growing up is that when you're a kid, you can eat just about anything off the floor,
right?
And you'll be fine. But as you grow older, what you know better, it's time for you to apply it better. And you have less room to make mistakes of what you should be knowing better, and that gets applied better in action, like the art form I'm talking to you about. So there's actually no problem with the nature of things. It's just with our freedom of choice that we're not utilizing to apply what we know already. How much people have so much information about what to do already, but they're not doing it. So there's obviously something that's missing here, you know? And maybe they just haven't found something strong enough or powerful enough to kind of really flip that switch and to turn on the lights with what they've been bumping into their whole lives and be like, oh, wow, I could have just walked beside this all along. I have a choice. I have to choose to want to open my eyes and see things. But then once again, it's like your vision might be blurry at the beginning. Give yourself a chance, you know?
Yeah, because it's brand new.
Yeah.
That really resonates with me because I feel very much like how we were saying when we were chatting before the show started, and I said, you know, I feel like cancer kind of showed up in my life to make me have the growth and the learning. And I didn't realize that I was stuck in like a disempowering loop with my relationships, with the way I thought about myself, with my job. And it was like a complete, like you say, fork in the road. Like I saw that there was another choice and that I could do that, but I don't know that I ever would have without that, like you say, something happening, right? Some key. And I can just imagine that if it was as life-changing for me, I imagine that for your clients, it's a big, because it's like a whole new way of looking at the world and looking at yourself and looking at, like you say, the choices that you're making and the way you're showing up in your life. And that's, it's a pretty profound thing to have your vision's blurry at the beginning because you're seeing things in a completely new way. It's like,
you brought up a good point with relationships, toxic relationships. One of the hardest things for me to do but I had the right environment, was to realize that, hey, it was just too easy to blame my exes. How about with all my exes, the common denominator is me?
Right.
What about just something I completely ignore for myself? So that's when I started my personal development, and I started realizing, oh my goodness, all these conversations where I showed them I nailed it because I speak well and stuff like that. So like I'd out argument them and be like, like 10-0 for Marvin. I'm like single afterwards, you know. But the point was that I had so much insecurities that flared up so many arguments, which was swept under the rug because their person didn't know that that's what was going on.
Right.
And I can know that that's going on.
Right. Exactly.
So when I started noticing, hey, you know what, that last one, I really, really I wanted that to really work. Like I was seeing it as like my last hope type of thing. That was enough to make me look deeper inside the mirror and go through the necessary course to see, man, what about it is something that's right there in my face I'm not seeing. And boy, did I see a lot of insecurities in me. My life had so much insecurities. That's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. I know, I feel that the same way. And you're right. It's a long side conversation, but absolutely. I feel 100% the same way. Going through cancer as my challenge was, it really made me look at myself and the way that I was showing up in my life, and
the choice to want to see what's really there.
What's really there. And it's true. You're not going to see it until you make that choice.
That choice.
And sometimes it's often something really hard that has to happen to us in order to see that. And
it snapped me out of some bad habits, right? And we were talking about the connection between them. So,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Mm-hmm.
good,
Good.
good.
Yeah. It's absolutely worth it in the end. Yeah. So you place importance on people having balance in their
Yeah.
lives. So do you have any tips for people who are looking to find this balance?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I call this equanimity. And I know it's not a popular word yet, but I swear if I could get a patent pending on it, I would. Because equanimity, the definition is the evenness, not you silencing or ignoring, the
Right.
evenness of your emotions, especially in a critical time. When we have all these degrees, we're all so smart, we know all the Google facts. When do we lose all of those things and they go all out of the window?
Right.
Especially in a critical time. So
Yeah.
when you notice, you see, when you could introspect of when did you lose your cool, when did you lose the control of things, that's when you could try to revisit of like, how can I proactively enter equanimity when I'm about to enter a zone of disaster? At least practice and be happy that you have situations like that in your day. They're there every day. See, this is
Right.
when the bad stuff in your day that are always recurrent are good because they're predictable.
Yes,
Right?
it's true.
So it's like, yes. So now I could walk into, I'll give you an example. I have to go up the steps. I know my heart rate could change,
Mhm.
but I know how my heart rate could be stabilized when I do belly breathing. So I was also a yoga teacher. So I
Oh,
practice my
nice.
belly breathing. All right. Everything's nice and cool. Now, can I proactively enter the state of calm state of mind? Body, mind are relaxed, super cool, emotions, super cool. Now, can I go up the steps, which would I would anticipate my heart rate to go up and to jitter up my body, but being proactively in this mindset where everything's calm, equanimity.
Yes.
And guess
Love
what?
it.
I could stabilize it because my body is going to find a speed to sustain the state of mind that I desired and I have chosen and I have practiced to be into.
Yes. Yes.
So
Makes
that's the
sense.
tip I could give to people. Well,
Yeah.
practice paying attention to where you're destabilized. It's
Yes.
pretty embarrassing. Probably don't want to repeat that. It's probably not all the other person's fault. Maybe they're just the nature of things for you.
Right.
Maybe it's like don't go in the forest without any like bee protection and you're going in the bee jungle.
Yes.
You know, it's like how are you going to equip yourself for that
For
and be
that.
well? Don't
Yes.
mess with your wellness.
Mm.
It's messing with your immune system, and
Yeah.
you don't know what your immune system could handle genetically
That's
speaking
right.
because all the illnesses that you could have them bam 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 at 95 years old when there's 2 weeks left for you to live in the hospital, or you could get them at 20 at starting at the age of 24
Right.
and
That's
counting.
right. True.
It's directly related to how you manage your wellness and how much you're paying attention
Oh,
to
yeah.
nurture that wellness like a
Yes.
being. Your
Yes.
body.
I
What
love
does
that
my body
image.
need? My
Yes.
emotions are saying something. What do you need? What do you need? What you're
Yes.
trying to tell me? The
Mm-hmm.
emotions is your body trying to communicate something to you. Discomfort also. But am I just am I glitching, or is this something I just need to adjust to?
Right. Right. Yeah. Just being aware, I think, of well, it comes back to what we're talking about with like habits and choices, right? And being aware of how you usually behave in that situation and what can you do to, like you say, proactively um choose something else, go a
Yeah.
different way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I imagine it's probably difficult for some people because for many of us, because we, as you said before, we don't like looking at those difficult things, we don't like feeling uncomfortable. It's much easier to maybe blame somebody else or put the blame somewhere
Mm-hmm.
else. But yeah, it's going to cause stress, and stress is going to affect you in so many ways. We are learning more and more how much stress affects our physical well-being. And yeah, I really love that image of like taking care of your well-being as almost as if it's a person,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that we forget to do that a lot.
Yeah.
We forget to take care of ourselves.
And
Yeah.
if I could add, if you want to have a visual of what equanimity is,
Mm-hmm.
and there's many different ways for people
Mm-hmm.
that drive a stick shift transmission, which is
Right.
probably like no one.
Yeah.
It's like it's when you're driving in the present moment you realize, okay, I need to bring my gear shift
Yes.
wherever it was being pulled. See,
Mm-hmm.
when you're getting pulled
In one
somewhere
way.
and you put it into neutral, not the whole car, just the
No,
gear
just the gear
lever,
shift.
because you're about to compose the appropriate action for the given situation. So I say
Yes, I
equanimity
like
is
that.
that silence before a composed masterpiece is about to come into actualization.
Nice.
There's a
I like
silence.
that.
All the notes are ready to be played.
Silence
right?
before the storm. Yeah.
Exactly. But there's a silence before something masterful,
Yeah,
a
magical.
masterpiece is about to be composed. So it's like that
Right.
moment of time that you could give. And that also comes with what Dr. Viktor Frankl, the
Mm,
psychologist that went through the Holocaust, with his reason of
yes.
being, what he mentioned. In between you getting ticked off and stimulated and triggered and the reaction, you could choose and
Which
practice
way to
to
go?
increase the space in which you
Yes.
could respond beautifully. That's another form
Love
of
that.
equanimity. Because I think
Love
that's
that.
really the central part of what I'm trying to teach people to
Yes.
do, is how to
Yes.
build that space of choice when in the space, in the timing of reaction.
Right.
So you get so good that you don't have to be like, can you
You
give
don't
me
have to
10
take a
seconds,
moment.
please?
Yeah.
It could come
Just
at the
do it.
same speed that you would
Yes.
react, right? And it
Make it a
becomes your
habit.
habit.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
I
We're
love
in
that.
sync. We're in sync.
Yeah. So I mean, on that sort of in that same vein of taking care of our well-being, in in breast cancer in particular, they talk about the breast cancer personality, and which a lot of, I know I ticked many of the boxes
Yeah.
of all like over mothering others, taking care of other people first, putting your needs last, or maybe not even considering them, low self-worth, low self-esteem, all that kind of stuff. So can you talk a bit about how putting our own well-being last ends up affecting us so negatively over time, and why then prioritizing ourselves is such an important piece of the well-being puzzle?
Okay. Well, awesome. I'm going to maybe explain into 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's that it's a good thing turned bad.
Right.
Okay. So that's my first point.
Mm-hmm.
It's something where it feels, it maybe connects to one of the preset ways of us being a good person in this
Mm,
world. But it's easier to hide behind helping others sometimes than really standing up for the difficult things that we want to forget about and
mm,
disassociate that have hurt us in the past.
right.
And there's so much stuff reminding us of the things we want to disassociate, to have gone through that traumatic pain,
Yes.
that we just try to bury ourselves in helping out others.
Mm,
And then now
yeah.
we end up having a worry overload because we have this umbilical cord with all these people, an umbilical cord with these people,
Yeah.
and there's already worry that we have with ourselves, but now we have to worry about them with the way we just decided to attach ourselves to them.
Right.
So we can never say something super powerful like one of that, I think his name was Restaurant Impossible. There was a super chef,
Yeah. Yes.
super powerful guy, built German guy with glasses, I think,
Yes.
Austrian.
I remember that show.
And
Yeah.
I think he lost a competition to Bobby Fay, and he said something that sent shivers through my body, because I'm like, I look up to this guy. Obviously, he made it, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And he goes, so what are your feelings about, you lost, and no, like,
Yeah.
you know. And he was like, hey, you know what? I did my best. It is what it is.
Mm.
But he said it in a way that sent shock waves
Oh,
through me.
through
Like,
you.
I'm like, that was so powerful. Like, he really did his best.
Yeah.
What else he has to say?
What
He said,
else
well,
can you do?
Bobby Frey had the win in his advantage. No, he doesn't have to think about that. And that's what was powerful about it. And you don't
Mhm.
get that calm power when you
Yes.
have an umbilical cord to all the people that you have invested more than what you can afford to lose
Afford to
in them.
invest. Yeah.
And that's one secret I've got from Dr. Phil. Thank you, Dr. Phil. Do not ever invest more than what you can afford to lose. And you end up doing that all the time. So
All
then
the
you're
time.
giving from what you do not even have.
Wow.
And so
It's like an
it
emotional
also, and
deficit.
then it becomes something called, my last point is noble neglect. So
Mm.
for something that is worthy and noble, you're still neglecting yourself
Neglecting.
technically.
Right.
So what that happens is that it ends up, ironically, if I'm allowed to see it from a different angle, it's the most selfish thing and cruel thing in the world for the people that you love. Because
Mm.
if you've really hooked them up like that in life, the last thing they want to see is you not being able to
Right.
enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Seeing you suffering from the self-induced low immune body functions, that and the low quality of a life, the low experiences, you're always suffering, you never lived out your life your way. They want you to do it, and then you're stuck, your button is stuck in worry mode.
Yes.
And I know what
Yeah.
that feels like, you
Hmm.
know? I know what it feels like myself. I had to umbilical cord myself out of that person from doing that to other people.
Yeah.
I had to notice that this was completely dysfunctional.
Right.
And that's why I connect with people that are going through that as well. They can't even realize that, hey, honey, he's in Paris now. You get it?
You
Like,
can't
that's
do
an
anything.
exaggeration, right? But it's just something that it's a good thing that turned out bad.
Yeah.
And it's just like the people want to see you happy. The best gift you
Yeah.
could give to them is that you're happy.
So
You're
true.
killing it. Like you're smiling. You're sending pictures of things that you enjoy doing, and they come and support you. But then you're stuck in this perpetual sadness loop
Yes.
of is everything gonna be all right? And
Yes.
you become fragile also.
Mhm.
And your worth and your self-image and your self-esteem is still umbilical cord connected to them, and you're not even seeing that they're well.
That's
Or
so
maybe they're
true.
suffering because you're suffering.
Yes,
So that's my
exactly.
point that's on it.
Yes.
That's what I have to add on that topic.
That's so, it's such a wonderful point, because it's like we're so worried about taking care of other people that we don't view taking care of ourselves
Yeah.
as an additional way to take care of others or to make them happy, like putting on your own oxygen mask first, right? Like, how could you possibly
Yes.
expect to take care or support somebody else if your tank is on empty? Yeah, I really love that
Yeah.
explanation. Yeah, wonderful. So in one of your, this is something I loved, in one of your blog post that I read, you said, finding your reason for living is a muscle worth training. It is an internal motivation that is not motivated by what others will approve of, but instead by what you feel matters most to you.
Yeah.
And I really loved that so much. And I think it connects to your message of celebrating our true self. So
Yeah.
what does it mean to you to celebrate all aspects of one's true self, and how does celebrating our true self support our well-being?
Yeah, oh, definitely. Because it, once again, it takes courage to be yourself. And, you know, when you strip the diplomas, the fancy clothes, the washboard abs, anything that
Yep.
you might have accumulated to kind of like impress others, what impresses you in all aspects of it? And because
Right.
you're always with you.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I had when I was at my youngest age is the first question I could remember asking myself is why there's so many divorces. And now I've grown up and I've thought about it for a long time, like, but why wouldn't there be divorces when people are divorced from themselves?
Right.
How can someone know what love means to you if you haven't figured it out and you're not expressing that to yourself all day?
Yes.
Show me what love is to you, and I'll take notes and I'll be like, is this it? And be like, oh, how did you know? I don't know. You give it to yourself like all day, all week, all month, all the time. You know, and it's just discovering the beauty that we all possess. And it's only when we go in that search of what true love is and we're allowing ourselves to discover that, we discover true beauty, you know, and we could give ourselves those internal validations of how well we feel, and how well we feel doesn't depend on other people now. And it is a muscle that you have to work, because it doesn't just come by magic, because no one emulated this for us.
No.
So it's like, once again, it's a choice to like get closer and closer to what hits the spot for you. And then as you get better at it, it's like, okay. And I give this as a tip once, when the first time I spoke to Navneet, and it was like, well, what would I want to run back home to do if I could do whatever I want?
Whatever I wanted.
And the essence of that, can I sprinkle that throughout my day? And would anyone have an objection of me giving them, going the extra mile to give them a bonus of a service that they're paying for, to the point that they're like, should I pay extra for this? Because I'm pretty sure like that's a bonus service. No, like I got something out of it, you know? And see, I paid myself first
I love
while serving you.
Yes.
So it was like the best selfish thing to do in the world, because you're happier, you're gonna come back. I was happy doing this service. I got what I wanted, you know, like all of the check marks are there. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's a muscle that you have to develop. One good tip I could give to people to do this is, based on the 10,000 hours that it takes to become an expert at something, right? To master something that you had no choice to develop today. Okay, like your parents like tied you to a chair and made you practice piano.
Yeah.
And the 10,000 hours of things that you never thought about, but no one ever had to force you to do these things. And combine it with the 10,000 hours of things that you get to do with these two things from now on. And that is one hell of a muscle to practice, because that gives you a direction of the infinite possibilities of there's nothing that's holding you back to
yeah.
live your life your way. And when we need Bon Jovi at the age of 60 to tell you it's your life, you can live it your way. Of course, you're a grown adult. What else are you
Yes.
supposed to do?
What
You
else are
get
you
it?
supposed to
But
do?
people need that reminder. It's your life.
Yeah.
You can live it your way. It's just like whatever you are, be a good one. So even if it seems like, oh, I can't be myself because, we told me not to do that, or maybe that's not socially acceptable. Okay, let's start with a version that is
That
acceptable.
is.
You're
Yeah.
still living it out, right? What
Right.
positive thing that you could do with it, right? Brainstorm. It's a muscle. But at least you get to be yourself and people get to give you a high five. I'm like, man, I'm happy you exist. Man, you looks like you could do this all day. Yeah, I can actually.
Because I love it. That's That's awesome. Yeah, and it's we do need that reminder sometimes. Often, I think we end up, living our lives for other people. For like the way that we think other people think we should live, or the way our parents
Yes.
wanted us
Yes.
to, or so we make these choices, and it comes back to what we said at the beginning. You're making your choices for somebody else instead of yourself. And how can you ever possibly be happy or love yourself or what you're doing if you're not living your own life for you the way that you want? Yeah,
Which
I love that.
which reminds me to if I could have 90
Yeah,
seconds on
yeah,
this.
yeah.
At some point about 4 years ago, I started developing like some serious abnormal chronic anger. And my victory to myself is I never went to jail. It was so bad, but it was unprovoked anger. And I was at least aware enough to notice
To
that
know.
I'm angry all the time, but it's unprovoked. And then that's when I got that whole science about emotions are trying to tell you something.
Yes.
It's emotions are trying to tell you that your subconscious has picked up something.
Yeah.
And it's trying to bring it to your conscious thoughts so that you have a different action about it.
Yes.
I even had suicidal depression.
Wow.
All the suicidal depression is trying to tell you is, hey, buddy, you don't need to pull the plug. But what we're trying to tell you is that we would rather pull the plug than to live another day like this. But you don't have to pull the plug.
Right.
And my anger was telling me kind of like the same thing. Pay attention to something that you're not living out that you've always wanted to live. And no one is stopping you to live it. Maybe go listen to Bon Jovi again. It's hard to live your life your way because we think we have to live a certain way based on what we think people expect from us. And I had over-identified with what I was projecting without being the full and the wholeness accomplishment of who I really am.
Yeah.
Even if it's not clear, I'll be a better one tomorrow. And I could be a better one today. And that's that muscle that I'm working.
That you're working.
And it'll serve more people day by day.
That's right. That's right. I love that. Love that. Yeah, it really it is. It's a muscle that you have to practice, that you have to exercise. And it's one I think that you need to continually practice too, because you can forget how to use it if you if you leave it, if you neglect it. Yeah. So we are almost out of time, but do you have any, I know it went so quickly. Do you have any final tips or advice for people who are wanting to, form new habits and find their own path to well-being?
Yes, there's a very, very good Vietnamese monk that I love listening to. He has a lot of books I really, really love. My man Tick, and he and I are agree about one thing. One thing that could really transform your life is take time alone to walk in meditation, in nature. And if you could do it, and if you could add belly breathing to it, which could be a challenge, don't piss yourself off with the belly breathing. It's not obvious. You'll get better at it.
Yeah.
But it's just to try to find the right state of mind to clear your mind as you're walking, as you're in nature, as you're practicing better posture.
Right.
And as you're doing this, there's just so much magic that's happening because your relaxed mind and body and emotional state will try to see and be proactive about all the things that could come and mess it up and what you could do about it.
Yes.
You're giving yourself that space to kind of like auto repair in, all right, boss, what do I need to do next? Your body, your mind, your emotional state, all of you as a whole are trying to see how you could compose yourself in a critical situation versus being destabilized and disassociating from wanting to deal with a present situation, which is anxiety.
Right.
So the same things that cause you anxiety, now it's like, no. I'm excited with how I'm going to compose my whole self in full power and phase that.
I love that, because it's looking at that situation as an opportunity to do that, as an opportunity to really, yeah, like come into your power and choose something different. That in itself is incredibly empowering, because then you're not at the mercy of your emotions and your reactions at that point.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
not trying to run either. You're not trying to run how much calories did I burn?
No.
My burning fat
Yeah.
zone. Maybe I'm gonna go do some sit-ups afterwards. You're not in
Exactly.
that zone.
You're
You're
not in
in a
that zone.
completely different pace of
Yeah.
mind that enables you to lock into your state of peace of
Of
mind. You
mind.
can adjust the speed of the pace of your mind, and that's the power you're giving to yourself.
Love it. I love that. Well, I think, Marvin, that's a wonderful note to end on. And I just want to thank you so much for being here, for speaking with me, sharing your expertise. It was really wonderful. It's been incredibly interesting, very helpful. And I'm sure everyone's going to learn a lot from it.
I'm honored.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. If anybody would like to find out more about you, what's the best way to do that and how they might want to work with you?
Sure. Email me, Marvin Theodore 13@gmail.com. And you could also go on Calendly. I don't know if you could type it in, calendly.com/Marvin Theodore 13. So if you could put that in the chat box, I could maybe type it in real fast. Those are the two best ways of being able to book a time with me.
Okay.
Because I do have a site that the people could go on. But those are just the quickest ways of getting a hold of me. And on Instagram, obviously,
Yes.
at the Marvin Theodore. So those are the
That's
three best
Marvin
ways of getting a hold
Theodore.
of me right now.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much. And if anybody watching would like to find out more about me and Orenda Cancer Community, you can go to our website at orendablog.ca, or you can search on Facebook for Orenda Cancer Community FB Group, and you'll find me there.
Yes.
And Empowered, of course, is brought to you by Cancer Warrior Canada Foundation. It's an organization, if you don't know yet, that works to raise awareness about prevention and early detection, raising funds for research. And they also right now are helping out families who are particularly struggling during this crazy time that we're all living through. So if you or anyone that you know is in need of some help or assistance, you can contact Cancer Warrior at the number that is going across the bottom of your screen there, or contacting them through their social media pages. So Marvin, thank you so much again for being here. Thank you, everyone who is watching. Make sure you follow Cancer Warrior Canada on Facebook so that you don't miss the announcements of our upcoming shows. And I hope everyone has a wonderful night. Thanks for being here.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.